Welcome back, guys. Harry here, known as Trade Shop, and yeah, been a while. Gonna give you an update. Not much happening in the market. If you've noticed, since my last video, we've just gone sideways within a range, holding the lows, holding the highs. Nothing really much happened. But I'm just gonna give you an update. I still go with my bias, so please check out my last two videos where I talk about, my bias for the long term. This is gonna be short and sweet. Keep this nice and simple, and also join the Telegram. We're constantly updating there, so we're always active there. It's not quiet, so that's link is in the description. And yeah, so basically, what am I looking at here? So we have a few interesting things coming up. Obviously, we have our weekly close coming up, and we have the chance to close like this, which is telling me nothing. Remember, in the last video, I was telling you guys that I wanted to see price break its previous last wick to get that continuation. Since we now have, basically, we have a higher low and a lower high. What does that tell me? Range, right? And the weekly time frame is telling me we're in a range. But I did want to see this. If this was to break its wick, then we could confirm this as the new low. But actually, now this still remains as the low, because you need to see, to confirm a low, you need to see a lower high and a higher high to confirm that as a low, right? But I still do think that we probably do eventually do get this bounce up to this area here, just to retest it and see, you know, it's just out of this accumulation here. You do normally see price, accumulate, try to the upside before getting rejected. Or what can happen is we can just break down from our current positioning. So it is, yes, a 50-50, but I'm more inclined to say that I want to see some more upside. That's based on seeing daily here. You can see daily is still in a range here, but 4 hours trying to put in some type of structure here. You can see how the lows are keep on rising, right? And we can see how these lows are being rejected here. So I do think that we have a little bit of upside here looking at the short-term time frames, but keeping in mind, we do have Stokes turned up, but you need to keep in mind that we are still in a range, and this is quite a dangerous range. And if we do see price start breaking below 33,000 and closing below 33,000, and on a 12-hour even just closing below the 34,000 here, then I do think we're going to see probably a catastrophic. We might get a wick down here to back down to the 30,000 and then get a wick back up. But the thing is that if we start closing the daily below 30,000, then we can start talking about 20,000 and stuff like this. So Bitcoin is still on that edge, right? I really want to see it come up and retest this area, but I really want it to hold, come back in the range and start going sideways, and this is what I've been saying from the very beginning. I want to see Bitcoin flag out, right? And the reason why I want to see Bitcoin flag out is because every time Bitcoin has had accumulation like this, normally the distribution is very, very significant. Just looking at in the past year, it's not the first time we've seen Bitcoin flag out. You can see that after a flagging out like this with multiple tests to the upside and the downside, we ultimately get a big move. Yes, that did get sold into, but that was retesting this area here. We flagged out again and then got beautiful distribution. I want to see something like that. There are a lot of warning signs, suggesting that, all right, based on momentum based indicators such as MACD, such as moving averages, that suggest that this is the top and are giving a signal that is very significant of a macro top, and are suggesting that yes, the next bounce we do get is going to be that lower high for price to continue down, which is very, very, very possible. And I've always been saying that this area here, I do expect it to reject. It's very normal. But what I don't want to see is I don't want to see it reject with a lot of volume, a lot of open interest, that price pushes through this area. Because if everyone starts shorting at this area here, it's going to be terrible for price, right? Because if everyone's trying to short here, instead of price being reaccumulated back at the lows here, maybe a couple of wicks down here, what's going to end up happening is just going to shoot straight through, and then based on that, closing below the weekly, and price is going to continue down. I'm always going to stick with my bias until I see a weekly downtrend. Nothing is confirmed yet, and I would like to believe that Bitcoin pulls through, maybe comes back up here, and we're basically in a little bit of a bear cycle here. That's what I like to believe, but what I believe and what happens is two different things. Now, in saying that, it's in a very difficult situation here. No matter how experienced you are in the market, no matter who you are, it's very difficult now to say if we're still in a bull market or if we're in a bear market. Looking at technical analysis, looking at fundamentals, Bitcoin is getting a lot more fundamentally strong, and these type of moves that we have seen in the past here, that would have been detrimental, such as something like this, to put Bitcoin in a bear market. Now with strong fundamentals, what we might see is that Bitcoin now pulls through based on fundamentals. If we are trading back at 20,000, below 20,000, I have to start questioning the long-term livelihood of Bitcoin, because it would have retraced its whole all-time high breakout, right? It would have retraced its whole move, which is not healthy. And in such a short period of time to come down and retrace that type of move, I have to start questioning, all right, the fundamentals are not strong. But looking at, countries, recent news, countries have been accepting, now El Salvador has put it on their own country's balance sheet. With news like this, it's hard to say, all right, fundamentals should keep this. So even though technicals are suggesting a bear cycle, but the fundamentals are strong, and the fundamentals is what I think might pull Bitcoin through in this situation, because we're having a lot of negative technicals. Looking at the monthly, looks like it wants to pull off a wick fill, come back down, retest that 29,000. If it breaks it or not. If it does break it, then that's terrible. That's going to be a lower low on the monthly. But looking at how the monthly is shaping up here, we really need this month to basically either not break this low or close somewhat bullish, right? Like weak bullish, But I need it not to break this low. It's already tested the support down here, right? So I don't want it to break the low, and I think that's very important for price. Now, looking at macro, we do have, I think the bi-weekly is closing. Where's bi-weekly? I don't even have it on here. So the bi-weekly should be closing, but I wanted to have a look at how that is closing, but I don't have that in front of me, and I'm not bothered to put it in. But from the weekly, you can understand how the bi-weekly will close. But now all it remains is this high low here. If we do break below, technically, yeah, we should be going down and down. But really now, you should be looking at this as a long-term view. And as a long-term view, I don't think the selling is over. I do think we do pop up. I do think that happens sooner or later. I can't give you a time scale because that's very difficult to say. But what I can give you on the lower time frames is a range and tell you when to expect that breakout, right? Or and then essentially come down, fish out a few wicks, and then go sideways and get really boring. I expect this market to get boring, and I want it to get boring. Exactly like the examples I was showing you in the beginning of this video of how the market goes sideways. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Bitcoin recover, get boring over the summer. Winter comes, and we start seeing this thing shoot, start getting all of this accumulation here. We start seeing this continue up, and we start seeing the fundamentals pull through on Bitcoin, because that's basically how it works, and that's how I want to see it work, and basically that's your low. But now let's jump down to the lower time frames here on my messy chart, and let's have a look at what we have here. So essentially we have this range here. We keep getting rejected at this resistance. If we do close above 36, I will see a quick move here to 37,000, which I do think can happen. Let's just have a quick look at momentum on the lower time frames, and you can see it's pretty much up there, but it is still pointing up. So we could see that retest of this resistance here. Now I've seen a lot of people drawing trend lines here to hold this support level here, like so, which is fair enough, but all this is putting in is higher lows, higher lows. If price was to break this, I would need for it to break on a stronger time frame. Would a 4 hour even do it for me? I don't even think a 4 hour would do it for me. I would need an even stronger time frame for this to break, because technically your last structural higher low is here at 34,000. So I need on a 4 hour 34,000 to break before looking for a move. And I think the projected move out of this triangle, out of breakout point, is going to be somewhere around 30,000 lows or 29,000 lows. And you can see, yeah, it's at that 30,000. So technically, even looking without a trend line, your last structural low is here at the 34,000. Your next target would be at that 30,000 at this wick fill here. So it is lining up with technical. So you don't really need this trend line. And if you are using the trend line, which is fair enough, each to their own, I'm not one to judge, then I would like to see this on a 12-hour more better than, I want to see it broken on a 12-hour to see here. But it does look like, we are getting the bounce off it. if you're drawing it like this, depending however you're drawing it. I don't really use these trend lines, but what we do have essentially is a range here on the 4 hour. And if we do break above that top side of the range at 40,000, you will see a quick move up here to 45,000, which then, caution, and we see what will happen here. But in the lower time frames, jumping down to the 1 hour, if you are using that trend line, essentially your breakout point is going to be, if you draw it something like that, and you're drawing your triangle, let's say something rough like this, and we take a measured move, it probably will give you your target to one of my resistance lines up here, and it's giving you a target to 46,000, which I think it should be moved down to 45,000 if you were to break out, out of this, which, yeah, I think it should be moved to 45,000 because 45,000 is a much more significant resistance. It is one of the first resistance we have after the breakout. So, it depends how you want to look at this, and how you want to analyze this. But, as I said, we do have our ranges here. And as soon as price starts to break, get above, probably even 39,000 will do it for me on a 12-hour. If it starts breaking its last previous high at 39,000, we probably will start seeing that trend change. Looking at CME quickly, I said I would keep this video short. So, CME, how it closed the weekly. Yeah, it's closing the same. It closed out on a bearish candle on the daily. That's a very questionable higher low now. That basically daily structures flip. So now I'm seeing this as a range. So not much information from that. But with that being said, take care, trade sharp, and until next time, peace.